Welcome to Startup Hack. This is the second part or part two of our Linux crash course. Now, this is a great crash course for people who are interested in learning about Linux, who don't know anything about where to start. And so there is a part one to this. So make sure if you didn't watch that yet, there's a link down below. So make sure you go and check that out and watch that one first, as it will really help you. And then you can come back to this video. Or if you're just looking for some great commands, we're going to go through a ton of different Linux commands. The last one we went through all the Linux folders and what to expect from folders and how to navigate through the folders. But let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome to Startup Hack. My name is Spencer Tomlinson. I am the CEO and co-founder of CleanRouter, as well as many other products. Here are some lessons that I've learned building a successful business while challenging startup norms. My challenge is to push you to rethink startup success. Welcome to Startup Hack. All right, let's go ahead and jump in here. Now, again, this is our Linux terminal. And one of the first things you'll notice is this tilde sign. This means that we're in our home directory. And so this is actually the same as if you go to home / your username, right? Then you notice that it switches to tilde. So if I go to the root and then I go back, and now what I did there was I just hit the up arrow. So in Linux, you can actually up and down, and it will help you to navigate between previous commands that you've entered. Now, the other part about this too to remember is tab is your friend at a Linux terminal. So I can type ST and hit tab, and it will finish it for me. So tab is definitely your friend. Get used to using that. But another way to get to do this is to say cd and tilde, and that will also take you to your home directory. So all a bunch of good things to get started on using Windows or using the command line. So one of the first things that you'll notice is when we look at a Windows file, one of the things that you can see here is if I have this is a standard CSV, and so you can see that Windows has said, hey, this is a Sublime text file, because that's what I've set as the default editor for any CSV files. And then if I go and I change this file from a CSV to like a text file, it says, hey, are you sure you want to change it? You notice it even changes. That's going to open with Notepad now. So a lot of things change about the way that Windows behaves with a file. If I were to actually go and take this and rename it to a .exe, for example, Windows is going to now think that this is an executable. So it's going to think that if I double click on this that it can run it. And so that's one of the things to understand about Windows is that the file naming, the last part of the file there is actually what's going to tell Windows on how to interact with that file. In Linux, things happen very differently. So in Linux, we can see chmod, and we can actually, and it can, this will give us more help, but this is actually how we set different permissions around a file. So chmod is what actually can change a lot of these, but just changing the name of a file actually doesn't do anything. So let's get into some examples of this here. So if you type mkdir, this stands for make directory. So mkdir is make directory. We're going to call it demo. So we're going to make a directory called demo. Then we're going to cd into that directory. So now we can start doing some cool stuff here. And ls again lists out all the files in the directory. So now on Linux, we actually create an executable by setting its permissions. And so permissions is actually what drives that. Now, there's a handy little website that you can use here. There's lots of these, but ultimately Linux runs off of a series of permissions here. So let's go back up here. I'm going to do ls-l, which is going to list out. You can see these here are actually what are setting the permissions. So this is like read, write for various things. So those are some good examples here, but let's go into demo, and we're going to create some of our own. So one of the first things that we're going to do is I'm going to use nano, which is a command line text editor, and we're going to use nano and create mycoolfile.txt. Okay, so now I'm going to say this is a super cool file. I'm going to hit X and save it. Okay. Now, if I look at my file there and I go and look at the permissions of it, I'm going to see that it has, and we can go look at these. So you can see that it will have special, owner, group, and other. And so this becomes a numerical thing. So there's a couple of different ways to see these. So you can see the symbolic mode. So in this case, if we had DXWR. So we can do all these. There's also a numeric value that comes along with these. So if we set all of these, and we hit the apply. So it looks like I had this backwards here. So we can see that we can actually use, and so we can actually take this here, and so this link, and I'm going to put that link down below, but it's basically just file permissions, and we can put these into here, and it's going to change all of this. So if you ever wonder what the permissions on a file are, what that permissions are is it says, hey, this is read, write, execute for owner, read, write, execute, and these are all the permissions. Now, if I set this, it's going to actually set the permissions for that file. And so this will actually allow you to get into different folders. You can do this also for a file or a folder, because remember, everything in Linux is a file, so even folders are actually files, the way that it stores it. And so if I were to say, hey, I wanted to change the owner of this file, we can say chown and then 7 and my cool file. Now, it's not letting me change that because, so that one isn't letting me change it, because what it's actually trying to do is, if I look at 777, it's actually changing to owner, group, and other. Now, in this case, I actually don't have root access, and so if I wanted to do this, I can do sudo if you have sudo permissions. And then if I wanted to, this would allow me to change this to various different things. Now, as part of this is actually going to also change it to be an executable, right? Because I'm actually giving execution permission to all of these. So, as we change the permissions, it actually changes how the file, how the kernel interacts with the file. So so if you want to actually change a file to be just a straight executable and to run by default, this is how you would then go to change it. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the different editors. Now, editors among Linux users is like a religion. There's VI or Vim, and if I go to VI and say my cool file, right, and I want to use VI for this, there's a lot of people who have lost their mind trying to figure out how to get out of VI or Vim, and so in this case, and I'll explain that one here in just a minute. Vim is actually a more modern version of VI and comes with a few other things. And in fact, I think on a more modern system, even if you type VI, it's going to go into Vim. Now, the thing about VI is that VI is included in every single Linux kernel I've ever worked with. Even the most smallest stripped down Linux kernel always comes with VI. So other editors like Nanos, Emacs, Pico are some of the other more popular ones. And I'll talk about those in just a minute here, but VI is included everywhere. So what you have to actually do if you're in VI, and I'm actually not much of a VI wizard myself. There are people and courses, like there's whole courses you can learn about using VI. It's very powerful for people who know how to use it. But if you hit escape, and then you hit semicolon, and then lowercase q and exclamation point, that's going to quit without saving. I know, memorize it, learn it, love it. There's tons of Linux VI commands. You can see that there's entire basic VI commands, and I'll probably do a course on one of these one time where you can run through all of these. But needless to say, editors like this to edit a file is very important if you're editing config files, if you're writing scripts, or whatever it may be. I personally have found, and since this is a Windows crash course, not a Linux power user course or Linux crash course, I have found Nano to be the closest thing to something a Windows or non-Linux user would probably find as the easiest way to edit files. So if you type Nano and then your file name, what you'll get here is you'll be able to type freely. Even in VI, you had to actually take special commands to be able to enter text. You may think I'm crazy, but if I'm in VI and I want to start typing, you can see it's not even working. Now, once I've hit I, that was when it switched into insert. But then if I hit escape, now I'm out of insert mode again. So, even in VI, it can actually, to be able to type, you have to hit I, and then to get out of insert, you have to hit escape, and To some people this becomes very intuitive, but then to quit without saving, if you want to quit and write, you would do this, or see, and I even forgot what my basic quit with saving is. So if you, another way to do this is it will prompt you if you just say escape :Q, and it's going to say, hey, you have to do that to override. Or if you say escape, quit, and save, I think it is. Man, I don't even remember my own commands here. I was so close. All right, so if you go and, so if I'm editing a file, so we hit I, and I can start making edits to a file, blah, and then I want to write it to, I want to save it or write it to the file, I hit escape, semicolon, and W, and that will save it. So you can see how complicated it can be to do some of this. If I want to quit and save it, I'd hit quit and write. Oh, apparently that's not even an option. So we've already saved it, we'll just quit and do this. But if I go back into Nano, you'll see how simple this becomes. This feels much more like a notepad where I'm just hitting backspace and I can make additions. Then if I want to save it, all I'm going to have to do is hit Control and X, and it's going to prompt me and say, hey, do you want to save this? And you say, yeah, I do want to save it. And then I save it. So this is going to be much, I think I have found and worked with a lot of different people on these crash courses and found that Nano is a lot more like Windows, like what you're used to using. Now, like I said, I've taught a lot of people, and I mentioned in the beginning, Starter Pack. Starter Pack is a fantastic way to learn to become a developer very quickly and very simply. And so I want to make sure I take a minute and explain the benefits of Starter Pack. Starter Pack is a fantastic course that we use to teach people how to become great developers. So with Starter Pack, you can become a developer in just a .NET developer in just 3 months to where you can get to earning over $100,000 per year. It's a fantastic course. It comes with individualized tutoring so that you can actually never get stuck and you become an amazing developer very quickly. So make sure you check out starterpack.com because we are providing this awesome opportunities, and there's a discount code in the description down below. So go check out starterpack.com. All right, let's jump back into our samples here. So that's some of the way that you do an editor. So now one of the things is that if you want to be able to run something that runs on a scheduled basis, one of the things that you'll find with Linux frequently, somebody will refer to a cron job. So what is a cron job? So a cron job is something that will run at a scheduled interval, and we can see cron in various different ways. So let's go look up some cron scheduler format, and you can look at what the cron syntax is for becoming a schedule. And that was not exactly what we expected. So let's go look at a cron examples and look at the expression editor. So this becomes a little tricky, and so the way that you'll see these cron scheduled is you'll see that this is going to run every 5 minutes, every 4th hour, at this day, this month, this day. So let's take a look at an example here. So if I'm going to go look at cron tab, if I want to go look at cron jobs, I'm going to type cron tab -E. This is actually going to give us all of the different cron jobs that are running on the server. So you can actually see that on this server, at 11, so at the 0 hour of the 11th, or excuse me, 0 minute of 11th hour every day. So if it's a star, then that means every day, month, and so again, these are these commands here is day, month, and then the day of the week, right? So if you want it to run every Sunday or something, then you would put the number there. So then what you're going to do is, in this case, then put the command that it's going to run. So in this case, I'm running a billable PHP project that runs every 11 p.m. or excuse me, 11 a.m. on the server every day. So this is an example of cron, and you can see here some of the examples that are listed in this. And so you can see, it gives you an example right here, 0, 5, 0, and this is the first day of every week. Do a tar, zip this up, and so it'll run the command that's after that. So in general, I've actually found it best to have like one single file that you're running. So this one can be a pretty long command, but yeah, you can see here that I'm loading up PHP and then running that command. So this is cron tab and cron scheduler. So if you hear about cron jobs, that's what this is all about. So I think that's quite a bit here, and we're going to go into a ton of different more commands in the third video of the Linux crash course. So there should be a link for that showing up here on the screen. Make sure you go and check that out and go dive into the third one. And then again, make sure you check out startuphack.com. It's a great way if you're looking to become a developer to dive in and in 3 short months get up to earning over 100,000 per year as a proven full stack developer. It's a fantastic course. Make sure you go check out startuphack.com and the discount code in the link below. We'll catch you on the third part.